Hey guys, Technomentary here with the video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be comparing the iPhone XS with the iPhone SE, first edition of the iPhone SE, in a head-to-head comparison where you look at the hardware, the software, overall performance, and build of these two phones in 2021, whether you're looking to compare these phones or looking to see which one might be better options, and all of the reasons and much more we're going to cover in this video. But before we go ahead and get started, if you guys are new to our channel, we do a lot of tech news, reviews, and giveaways, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you guys are in the market for one of the newer iPhones like the iPhone XS here or any of the newer iPhones, make sure you guys check out the discounted link in the description section. So let's go ahead and get started with today's video. So both of these phones have a lot of years apart. The iPhone XS here that we have was released in September 2018. 2 years prior to that was the release of the iPhone SE, the first edition of it in 2016. So 2 years apart of these two phones. Of course, between these two phones, a lot has changed. And you'll notice between just holding it side by side is the first thing is the body size difference between these two phones. You'll notice that the iPhone XS here looks huge compared to the iPhone SE, and if you're comparing to the XS Max, which is probably the bigger edition of the iPhone XS here, it's gigantic compared to the iPhone SE. And once I the iPhone SE here, it looks really small, and it is small in a lot of ways. The size, of course, the display, and the weight, which weighs just a little under 4 ounces compared to the iPhone XS here, which weighs just a little over 6 ounces, almost 2.5 ounce difference between the weight of these two phones because of the size. And the overall build of these two phones are unique in a lot of ways. The first thing is the iPhone XS here, it's made out of your stainless steel grade body. Of course, it is almost surgical grade stainless steel is the accurate name for it. It has both front and back being both glass here. As you can see, it does come in similar colors that the iPhone SE here comes in. The iPhone SE here that we have, as you can see, it has that aluminum metal like body to it. And the first notable difference, if we look at the back of these two phones, is the fact that both of the phones are built in different ways. Of course, you have the iPhone SE, which resembles the iPhone 12 lineup, which Apple has brought back, where it has those flat bezel here versus the rounded bezel on the iPhone XS here. Of course, the other noticeable difference you'll notice is the dual 12 megapixel camera on the iPhone XS compared to that single 12 megapixel camera. Of course, a lot has changed because of that. Apple went away with removing all this extra writing for all of the warnings and design patterns, and you'll notice sort of more shinier build versus the matte build on the iPhone SE in terms of the design. And let's move away from the body itself and let's talk about the display here. As we mentioned, the iPhone SE is a 4.0 display compared to the 5.8 display, and the display itself between these two phones there's a lot going on between these two phones. The iPhone SE here nowhere compares to the iPhone XS display, and because it's a really small display, of course, and you'll notice right off the bat when you're looking at this phone, it is just that LCD display with IPS technology. The resolution is around 1136 by 640. It has a 800:1 contrast ratio and a 500 max brightness to it. So not, of course, the greatest, but it does have that LCD display to it, and it's really small, right? Compared to the iPhone XS here, which has that all-screen OLED 5.8 display, Super Retina, compared to just Retina on the iPhone SE here. It has a huge resolution to it, 2436 by 1156 resolution to it. It's huge compared to the iPhone SE. Of course, it has 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio. One thing you'll notice is the contrast ratio. Of course, the max brightness that the iPhone SE here gets is around 625. Other missing features like the True Tone display and the 3D touch, which isn't available on the iPhone SE here, it's available on the iPhone XS. Of course, display wise, because of that OLED display, it does consume up a lot more power to it, but it does give you that vibrant display that you don't get on the iPhone SE here. Let's talk about another thing is the storage of these two phones. What kind of storage configuration can you get out of these two phones? Well, there's a lot of difference between it. Small phones mean smaller storage capacity here. The iPhone SE here, the base level, you're able to get it at 16 gig. Of course, we have the 32 gig, and you're able to max it out at 128 gig. Why is that important? Well, one thing is that the iPhone SE here, or any of the iPhones that you have, they are not able to expand by using a memory card like the Android phones that you're able to do. That's why it's really important to compare the storage. The iPhone XS here, on the other hand, starts at 64 gig, almost 4 times the base for the iPhone SE here, and it's able to max out at 512 gig, which is pretty much a max you can get even on the newer iPhone 12 lineup. So it's important to note that if you're looking for a lot of storage, you're probably going to be looking at the iPhone SE here, especially if you have tons of memory here. If you're taking a lot of photos and videos, you're going to be looking at that. Talking about photos and videos, let's move on to the camera here. We notice, of course, the camera difference between these two phones is that 2 versus 1 megapixel camera here. And what does that really mean for the iPhone SE here? Well, the iPhone SE does take still some pretty phenomenal pictures, but the one thing you'll notice is things like portrait mode is not available on the iPhone SE here. Of course, portrait mode is a phenomenal feature, and it probably enhances a lot of photography skill. If you're a person looking to enhance your photography skill, you're going to be looking to leverage that portrait mode. Of course, in the video space, you'll notice the iPhone SE and the iPhone XS both does record 4K, but there's only one feature of the iPhone SE for 4K, so it's only able to record at 30 frames per second, unlike the iPhone XS here, which goes from all the way from 20 frames per second at 4K all the way to 60 frames per second. So of course, better camera build because of that dual camera. You also have twice the optical zoom, which is impossible on the iPhone SE that we have here. And let's talk about the battery of these two phones. What kind of battery can you expect of these two phones? Well, battery is sort of one aspect. You'll notice the iPhone SE here has a really tiny battery compared to the iPhone XS, which has a almost 2700 mAh battery, because it needs that battery for the OLED, which consumes up a lot of power, and that bigger display, it's requiring a battery. But if you're looking for a phone that to last you pretty much the whole day, you're probably going to be looking at the iPhone XS. The iPhone SE here, because of the small battery, if you're looking to do just basic calling and texting and here and there light browsing on the iPhone here on a daily basis, it's probably going to get through the whole day, but you might not, depending on your usage. But if you're more on heavier usage, both of the phones will not get you throughout the day. The iPhone SE probably will die 1/3 of the day, where the iPhone XS probably get you halfway through your day if you're a light to heavy user before you need a charge. So that's the aspect of battery that we want to note between these two phones. So let's talk about the iOS update between these two phones. The iPhone SE here is able to get iOS 14, and it's the last update the iPhone SE is going to get for the major update. When we have here that the iPhone SE is discontinued and will not be supporting iOS 15, which is going to be coming out later when Apple releases the iPhone during its annual flagship release. So pretty much end of life for the iPhone SE in software update. That doesn't mean apps won't be supported. You're still going to be able to use the phone. Probably going to notice that it's slowing down, but even with major updates being outdated, like some of the phones like the iPhone 6 for example, it's running iOS 12, but apps are still supported to a degree. Of course, some of the newer apps that come out that has some of the features that require to use the hardware will not be supported. On the other hand, the iPhone XS here, it's going to be getting at least another 2 to 3 years of major update, because Apple usually supports the phones for about 5 years or so on the major updates. You're probably going to be seeing this phone get the iOS 15, 16, and possibly 17 as well. 17 might be pushing it as well, but we do expect it to getting those updates to it. And finally, let's talk about why you might get one phone versus the other. So why might you get the iPhone SE here in 2021? Well, a couple of reasons you might get the iPhone SE first edition in 2021 is that it still has that fingerprint touch reader to it, which in 2021 might be really relevant because Apple has rumored to bring that fingerprint reader back on the iPhone on a virtual screen with the iOS 15 updates coming to it. Other thing, you might probably get the iPhone SE here. It's really small, lightweight, and the design is pretty much mimics the iPhone 12 lineup that we saw with that bezel being all flat and sharper rounded design to it. It's really small, it's really lightweight, and it's around 64 grams lighter than the iPhone XS that we have. It's thicker, and that's probably it. And the last thing is that it supports iOS 14, and it's probably the cheapest supported iPhone that you can get on the market right now for less than $100 compared to the iPhone SE here, which you're probably going to be paying around $400 or $500. So 5 times the amount you would pay if you're buying it pre-owned or even used in that case. That's probably the reason why you would get the iPhone SE in 2021. Why would you get the iPhone XS here in 2021? There's of course a lot more reasons that you will get this phone. Of course, first thing is the battery power. It's almost bigger battery, which gives it around 1.6 more battery power to it. Pixel density that we mentioned, part of the OLED, is it's almost 40% higher in pixel density because of that OLED technology that we see on this phone. Of course, it has 2 gig more internal memory. One thing Apple doesn't advertise, the iPhone SE here has around 2 gigs. So these things come in play when you're playing games like Fortnite or PUBG that are meant to be played on the console, or if you're doing a lot of multitasking, you're switching between applications, you're watching videos, you're watching things like that, you're going to be looking at the iPhone XS. Of course, other thing to note is that because of its all-body display, it's around 45% bigger display, and hence why when you look at side by side, we see that. And the last thing why you might get the iPhone SE, it's the software updates you're going to be getting it. If you're looking for a phone for in the long-term run, the iPhone XS is the go-to phone because the software update, it's going to be iOS 14. It's the last for the iPhone SE, where the iPhone XS will get a couple more years of updates. So if you're looking for a phone in 2021 but want to be able to make sure that you don't have to buy another phone in the next year or so, the iPhone XS here is probably what you're going to be looking for. And that's why one of the reasons why we claim the iPhone XS being one of the best phones to get in 2021. Make sure you guys check out that video we released of it as well. Thanks for watching, guys. We want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think? Leave a comment in the comment section whether you upgraded from the iPhone SE to the iPhone XS or have either of these phones still in 2021. Leave a comment in the comment section, and of course make sure to hit that like and subscribe button while you're at it. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time.